It was just an ordinary afternoon when the impossible happened. Leo, a boy of only 5 years old, was sitting on the sofa of the sprawling mansion, wearing that distant 1,000-yard stare that had become his trademark. The headphones of his hearing aid hung around his neck like a useless necklace, a constant reminder of a world of sound he had never known. Silence was his only companion, that absolute void filling every room of that gigantic house. But then, something changed. A hand entered the boy's field of vision. It wasn't just any hand. It was a hand that told stories, aged, humble, with short, unpolished nails, skin dried out by time and hard work. That hand slowly emerged from the pocket of a faded white apron, carrying something small between its fingers. An antique silver whistle, oxidized with the marks of time etched into every millimeter of its surface. The owner of that hand brought the whistle to her lips and blew. A sharp, clean sound cut through the air of the living room. And then something happened that no one thought possible. Leo's eyes went wide. His entire body tensed up. Slowly, as if discovering a muscle he never knew existed, he turned his neck toward that sound. His mouth opened in a mix of shock and recognition. For the first time in his life, that deaf boy had reacted to a sound. But before we understand how that impossible moment happened, we need to go back 3 months in time. Back to the day a male voice, cold as ice, sliced through the silence of an office with mahogany doors. "This woman is scamming my son. I want her out of my house today." 3 months earlier, the Vance estate was the kind you see in Architectural Digest. All white floor-to-ceiling windows, and an infinity pool that seemed to spill into the horizon. But if you paid attention, you'd notice something strange. There was no laughter, no conversation, no life. Leo spent his days sitting on the Persian rug in the living room, stacking wooden blocks imported from Europe, just to knock them down again. He was 5, but his eyes seemed to carry the weight of an old soul. He was a smart boy. You could see it in the way he observed everything around him, the way his eyes tracked people's movements as if deciphering a secret code. But he was also a deeply lonely boy. Edward Vance, his father, was a man who measured success in numbers. At 42, he commanded an empire of construction firms raising skyscrapers on 3 continents, always in an impeccable suit, red tie, his power color, as he liked to say, and a Swiss watch that cost more than a luxury sedan. To him, his son's deafness was a technical problem that money should solve. He had already paraded Leo through every specialist in the country. He had spent fortunes on state-of-the-art devices that now served only as dead weight around the boy's neck. With every negative diagnosis, Edward showed no sadness, only irritation, like a man who bought a Ferrari only to find out the engine was defective. He wasn't necessarily cruel, just absent. He managed his son the way he managed his business ventures, from a distance through reports, delegating responsibilities, hugs, conversations. Those things weren't part of his vocabulary. And then, there was Mrs. Grady. Mrs. Grady was 62 years old and wore a worn-out blue uniform that she washed every night to wear the next day. She had been a widow for 15 years, had a faint southern drawl she never lost, and a habit of talking to herself while she cleaned. "This floor is begging for a polish, she would murmur to no one while mopping. "Oh, this window has a stubborn spot." To the Vance family, Mrs. Grady was invisible, just another piece of the house's infrastructure, like the HVAC system or the Wi-Fi network. But to Leo, she was different. Mrs. Grady was the only person in that house who got down on her knees to be at the boy's eye level, the only one who looked directly into his eyes without looking away, the only one who didn't talk at him like he was a wall, but talked to him as if he could understand every word, because deep down, he did. Leo wasn't deaf to emotions. He read lips, read expressions, read intentions, and in Mrs. Grady's eyes he saw something he never found in anyone else. He saw that he was seen. It was on a Thursday afternoon that the scene which would change everything took place. Mrs. Grady was cleaning the living room while Leo played on the floor. The television was on. No one knew why, since the boy couldn't hear. A music video was playing on the screen, with vibrant colors and a band playing electric guitars. Mrs. Grady stopped cleaning for a moment, observing. Then she had an idea. She walked over to the high-end stereo system, one of those expensive models with a built-in subwoofer, and turned up the volume. Not so Leo could hear, but so he could feel. She knelt beside the boy, took his small hand gently, and placed it right on the speaker box. The music was loud. The bass vibrations traveled through the wood, pulsing against Leo's palm. And for the first time in his life, the boy felt music, not as sound, but as a physical presence, a heartbeat, a pulsing rhythm entering through his touch and spreading through his body. Leo's eyes lit up. A genuine smile, rare, precious, appeared on his lips. He looked at Mrs. Grady with an expression of discovery, like an explorer who had just found an unknown continent. And Mrs. Grady smiled back, with that simple, sincere smile of someone who had just witnessed a small miracle. It was exactly at this moment that Edward walked into the room. He stopped in the doorway, assessing the scene with that analytical, cold gaze. The cleaning lady kneeling on the floor with his son, the loud music, their hands intertwined on the stereo. "What is going on here?" Mrs. Grady stood up quickly, lowering her head. "Mr. Vance, I was just—" "The boy likes to feel the vibration, and I thought—" "You thought?" Edward cut in, with a tone that didn't need to be loud to be cutting. "You aren't paid to think. You aren't a therapist. You aren't a doctor. You are a maid." The smile vanished from Leo's face. Mrs. Grady swallowed hard. "With all due respect, Mr. Vance, I just wanted to help the boy to do what? To have false hope?" Edward adjusted his red tie with a mechanical gesture. "I've spent fortunes on qualified professionals. I don't need the cleaning lady playing doctor with my son. Stay away from him. Do your job, and that's it." Mrs. Grady lowered her head even further and left the room in silence, taking her bucket and cloth. Leo watched her leave, and then turned his gaze to his father. But Edward was already scrolling through his phone, back turned to his son, as if nothing had happened. Leo went back to stacking blocks, went back to being that inert boy, lost in his world of silence. The brief moment of joy had been snuffed out like a blown candle. That night, in the small servants' quarters at the back of the mansion, Mrs. Grady sat on her narrow bed and opened an old shoebox she kept under the mattress. Her hands trembled slightly as she removed layers of tissue paper protecting the contents. Inside were two things: an antique silver whistle, rusted and oxidized by time, and a photo yellowed at the edges. In the photo, a young man with a wide smile stood in front of a brick building with a sign that read, "Oak Creek Sanitarium." Mrs. Grady ran her fingers over the photograph, with a tenderness only those who have lost someone understand. Then she took the whistle and held it against her chest, closing her eyes. "Jacob," she whispered to the silence of the room, "I think I found someone who needs your whistle as much as you once did." And that night, while the mansion slept in its perpetual silence, Mrs. Grady began to hatch a plan that would defy everything science and money had failed to do. She was going to give sound, or something like it, back to that forgotten boy. Now I ask you, in Mrs. Grady's place, would you have disobeyed the boss's orders to help a child? Or would you have just done your job and moved on? Write your opinion in the comments. I want to know what you would do. 2 days after the incident in the living room, Mrs. Grady was summoned to Edward's office. When she entered, she found a printed document on the mahogany desk, next to an expensive pen. Edward didn't even look up from his computer. "Read and sign." Mrs. Grady took the paper with shaking hands. The words danced before her tired eyes, but the message was clear. Employee Code of Conduct. The text was full of legal jargon, but the paragraph in bold left no doubts. Employees were expressly prohibited from interacting with the minor beyond what was strictly necessary for the fulfillment of their professional duties. Any violation would result in immediate termination, without severance. "Sign at the bottom," Edward said, still not looking at her. "And you keep a copy so you can't say you weren't warned." Mrs. Grady held the pen. For a brief instant, her hand hesitated over the paper. She thought of everything: the overdue electric bill, the rent for the small room where she lived, the blood pressure medication she couldn't skip. But mostly she thought of that lonely boy, of that rare smile she had witnessed for a few precious seconds. She signed. The blue ink smudged the paper slightly because her hand shook. When she left the office, clutching her copy of the document, 2 silent tears rolled down her wrinkled face. She wiped them away quickly, before anyone saw. The fall. Without Mrs. Grady's affection, without that presence that saw him as a person and not a defective project, Leo began to crumble. It was a gradual change at first, but soon it became impossible to ignore. The boy who once at least tried to communicate through gestures now simply shut down. He sat in the corner of the room, hugging his knees to his chest. rocking back and forth in a repetitive, agonizing motion. When someone tried to touch him, he screamed. Not the high-pitched tantrum scream common to children, but a guttural, primitive scream, loaded with a pain that had no words. And then came the meltdowns. The first time happened on a Tuesday morning. The French nanny, a middle-aged woman named Madame Rousseau with impeccable credentials and recommendations from high-society families, was trying to get Leo to eat breakfast. The boy simply turned his face away. She insisted, speaking in soft French. He pushed the plate. She tried to grab his hand to guide him. That was when Leo exploded. He threw himself on the floor and began banging his head against the marble. Once, twice, 3 times. The dry sound of the impact echoed through the dining room. Madame Rousseau screamed, trying to hold him, but the boy had a strength that seemed to come from desperation. When they finally managed to contain him, there was a red stain on the floor and a small cut on Leo's forehead. Madame Rousseau quit that same day. "Monsieur Vance," she said with all the composure she could muster, "I have worked with children for 25 years, but this boy, he doesn't need a nanny. He needs love. And that, monsieur, is not in my contract." Edward hired another. This one lasted 3 days before leaving, claiming Leo was impossible and dangerous. Then came a third, who didn't even last 48 hours. Meanwhile, Mrs. Grady cleaned the house like a ghost. She saw Leo from afar, saw the crises, saw the boy emotionally withering away, and every time their eyes met, even for a second from one room to another, she saw the question in his eyes. "Why did you abandon me too?" It shattered her heart. The failed attempt. It was on a Friday that Mrs. Grady decided to take a risk. She couldn't hug him, she couldn't talk to him, but maybe she could leave something for him to find. During her lunch break, sitting in the staff break room, she grabbed paper and colored pencils. Her hands weren't trained for art. They shook with age and the arthritis starting to settle in her fingers, but she drew the best she could. A big yellow sun, with rays in all directions, and a wide, goofy smile. Underneath, with shaky letters, she wrote, "You light up the world." She waited until the house was empty and left the drawing under Leo's pillow. The next day, she made another. A bright star. "You are special." And another. A heart. "You are loved." It worked for 4 days. She saw, out of the corner of her eye, Leo tucking the drawings under his mattress like secret treasures. She saw a faint spark returning to his eyes. But on the 5th day, the bodyguard, a large man named Roger, who took his job way too seriously, saw her coming out of Leo's room. He said nothing at the time, just waited until she left, went into the room, flipped the mattress, and found all the hidden drawings. 15 minutes later, the crumpled papers were on Edward's desk. The peak of injustice. Mrs. Grady was summoned to the living room. When she arrived, she found Edward standing, arms crossed, with the drawings scattered on the coffee table. Around him, other staff members had been gathered, the cook, the driver, the housekeeper. Edward wanted an audience. "Mrs. Grady," he began with that controlled voice that was scarier than any scream, "are you functionally illiterate? Can you not read?" She lowered her head. "I can read, yes, sir." "Then explain why you disobeyed a direct order, an order you signed." He picked up one of the drawings, the smiling sun, and held it up for everyone to see. "What is this? Art therapy? Did you get a degree in child psychology and no one told me?" "Mr. Vance, I just wanted to—" "Help!" He laughed humorlessly. "You want to help? Then do what you are paid to do. Clean up other people's messes. Don't create more." And then, in front of everyone, Edward tore the drawing. Once, twice, 3 times. The pieces of paper fell like confetti onto the Persian rug. He did the same with all the others. The star, the heart, every attempt at love Mrs. Grady had left for that forgotten boy. "Your role here," Edward said, tossing the last pieces into the wastebasket, "is to keep this house clean. If you can't do that without overstepping boundaries, there are 1,000 people out there who can. Am I clear?" Mrs. Grady didn't cry. She had learned over 62 years of a hard life that crying in front of those who humiliate you only gives them more power. She simply nodded. "Am I clear?" Edward repeated, louder. "Yes, sir." "Then you may go." Mrs. Grady left the room in silence, her head held high. But as soon as the door closed behind her, her knees almost gave way. She leaned against the hallway wall, breathing deeply. trying not to crumble right there. Then, she did something that surprised even herself. She went back into the living room, opened the door without knocking, and before Edward could protest, she knelt on the floor and began gathering the pieces of the sun drawing from the wastebasket. "What are you doing?" "Cleaning up the mess," she replied without looking at him. "Like you ordered." She gathered every tiny piece of torn paper, put it all in her apron pocket, and left. Edward stood there, speechless for the first time in a long while, watching that humble woman transform her humiliation into a small, silent victory. It's hard to believe someone can be so cruel to a person who just wants to help, isn't it? If you also feel outraged by this injustice, leave a like right now to show you're on Mrs. Grady's side. The night of the whistle. 3 days later, Leo got sick. It started with a fever that wouldn't break. Then came the pain, an ear infection that made the boy scream until he was hoarse. The private doctor was called for an emergency visit, a renowned specialist who charged $500 just to walk through the door. "It's a bacterial infection," the doctor explained to Edward, adjusting his glasses. "Common in children with ear issues. I'll prescribe antibiotics. In a week he'll be fine." But Leo wasn't fine. He writhed in bed, moaning, sweating with fever. And for the first time, Edward seemed genuinely worried. He stood by the bed for a few minutes, not knowing what to do, before leaving to make calls and organize a possible transfer to the hospital if the fever didn't go down. That was when Mrs. Grady went in to clean the room. She worked in silence, changing the towels, organizing the medicines the doctor had left. That's when she saw, lying on the floor beside the bed, Leo's hearing aid. That incredibly expensive device that had never worked, now broken in 2 pieces, probably destroyed in one of the boy's fits of rage. Mrs. Grady knelt down and picked up the 2 halves of the device. She looked at Leo, who slept restlessly, his face red with fever. And then, slowly, she reached into her apron pocket. Her fingers touched the cold, rusted metal of the silver whistle. In the dim light of the room, illuminated only by the weak glow of the lamp, Mrs. Grady held that object she had carried with her for 15 years. The whistle that had belonged to Jacob, her late husband. The whistle that had a story no one in that house knew. A story of a man who also lived in silence, and how a simple object had changed everything. She looked at the boy, then at the closed door, and made a decision that would seal both their fates. "Jacob," she whispered to the air, pressing the whistle against her chest. "Forgive me for what I'm about to do, but if this whistle saved you, maybe it can save him too." And in the darkness of that feverish night, Mrs. Grady began to execute a plan that would defy not only Edward's orders, but all the logic of modern science. The next morning brought a discovery that would seal Mrs. Grady's fate. Edward walked into Leo's room to check his fever, and found on the floor beside the bed the pieces of the hearing aid. The device that cost the equivalent of a luxury car was snapped in half, internal circuits exposed, the titanium casing cracked as if stomped on with force. He didn't yell. Men like Edward rarely yelled. Their anger was cold, calculated, lethal. He simply picked up the 2 halves of the device, left the room, and walked down the stairs with measured steps. He found Mrs. Grady in the laundry room, folding towels. "Explain this," he said, placing the pieces on the washing machine. Mrs. Grady looked at the broken device. Her heart raced, but her voice came out calm. "I found it like that last night, Mr. Vance. It was already broken when I went in to clean." "Lie." The word came out sharp. "This device was intact yesterday morning. You were the last person in the room. You stepped on it during your clumsy cleaning." "I swear I didn't, Mr. Vance." "Enough." He raised a hand, cutting off any defense. 62 years old and you still haven't learned to take responsibility for your own mistakes. This device cost $15,000. $15,000. But don't worry, I won't charge you. It would be like trying to get blood from a stone. He turned his back, walking toward the door, and then threw the final sentence over his shoulder, like someone discarding trash. "You're fired. Get your things and be out by the end of the day. No severance. No reference. Consider yourself lucky I don't sue for property damage." Mrs. Grady's world seemed to stop. 62 years old. No references. Because who would give references to a maid fired for supposedly breaking a $15,000 object? How would she pay rent? How would she buy her blood pressure medication? But then, something inside her snapped. It wasn't anger. It was something deeper. It was the realization that she had nothing left to lose. "Mr. Vance," she said, and for the first time in 3 years working in that house, her voice didn't shake. Edward stopped, surprised. Fired employees didn't talk back. They simply lowered their heads and left. "You can send me away," Mrs. Grady continued, lifting her face to look him directly in the eye. "But before that, give me 5 minutes with him. Just 5 minutes, to say goodbye." The silence that followed was so dense you could hear the hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen next door. Edward stared at her as if watching a piece of furniture speak. "Are you challenging me?" "No, sir, I'm asking, as one human being to another." The boldness was so unprecedented, so completely off script, that Edward was momentarily paralyzed. He opened his mouth to say no because men like him didn't yield, especially not to fired maids. But he was interrupted by a female voice coming from the stairs. "Edward." Mrs. Vance walked down the last few steps slowly. She was an elegant woman, always impeccable, who had spent the last 3 years as a decorative figure in her own home. Physically present, but emotionally absent, taking refuge in charity dinners and Pilates classes to avoid facing the failure of her marriage and her son's silent pain. But something in her expression was different that morning. "At least let her say goodbye," she said, with a firmness that surprised even herself. "The boy has suffered enough. He doesn't need to lose someone else without understanding why." Edward looked at his wife, then at Mrs. Grady. The situation was slipping out of his control. He didn't like that. "5 minutes, he said finally, every word coming out as if it cost money. 5 minutes, and if you try any of your therapeutic nonsense, I'm calling the police. Is that clear?" "Yes, sir." The 5 minutes. Mrs. Grady walked up the stairs slowly, every step feeling heavier than the last. Her heart beat so hard she could hear it in her ears. In her apron pocket, her fingers gripped the silver whistle. She stopped in front of Leo's door, took a deep breath, then turned the knob and entered. The boy was sitting on the bed, still feverish, face flushed and eyes glazed. When he saw Mrs. Grady, something changed in his expression. Not joy exactly, but recognition. A spark of life returning to those dull eyes. She closed the door behind her. Outside in the hallway, Edward and his wife waited. Edward checked his watch. Mrs. Vance stared at the closed door. Inside the room, Mrs. Grady knelt at Leo's level. She said nothing. What would be the point? He couldn't hear her. Instead, she just hugged him. A long, tight hug that said everything words never could. When she pulled away, she saw tears in the boy's eyes. Tears of confusion, fear, abandonment. And then, slowly, Mrs. Grady took the silver whistle from her pocket. The rusted metal shone under the room's dim light. Leo looked at the object without understanding. Mrs. Grady brought the whistle to her lips, her eyes locked on the boy's eyes. And she blew. In the hallway, Edward checked his watch for the 5th time. "It's been 3 minutes, he muttered. That's when the sound cut through the air. A thin, sharp, piercing sound. A sound that traveled through the solid wood door as if it didn't exist. A sound that made Edward and his wife look at each other, confused. And then, from the other side of the door, another sound, one none of them expected to hear. Leo's laughter. A genuine, childish laugh, full of surprise and joy. Edward froze. "What is going on in there?" Before he could move, the door opened. Mrs. Grady walked out, face wet with tears, but wearing a serene smile. Behind her, Leo was standing on the bed, holding something silver in his hand, blowing repeatedly and then stopping to feel the vibration in his fingers. "What is this?" Edward demanded. "What did you give him?" But before Mrs. Grady could answer, Leo jumped off the bed and ran, for the first time in months, ran to her and hugged her legs tightly, refusing to let go. And in the silence that followed, an impossible thought began to form in Edward's mind. That humble woman, that cleaning lady he had treated with such disdain, had achieved something the most expensive doctors in the country couldn't. She had made Leo smile again. Mrs. Grady sat on the bed next to Leo. Her hands still shook, not from fear, but from the magnitude of what she was about to do. The boy watched her with those big, attentive eyes, waiting, trusting. She took the silver whistle from her pocket one last time and held it in front of Leo's face, letting him examine it. The boy reached out his little fingers and touched the rusted metal, feeling the grooves of time etched into its surface. Then Mrs. Grady did something unexpected. She took Leo's hand and placed it gently over her own throat. The boy frowned, confused, but didn't pull his hand away. Mrs. Grady brought the whistle to her lips and blew, not hard, just a soft, controlled breath. The sharp sound echoed through the room. But what made Leo's eyes go wide wasn't the sound itself. It was the vibration. He felt Mrs. Grady's throat vibrate under his fingers, felt the air moving, felt the whistle creating waves that traveled through her body like tiny earthquakes. And for the first time he connected the dots. That object produced something, and he could feel that something. His eyes shone with understanding. Mrs. Grady smiled through her tears. "Now let me tell you a story, honey," she said, knowing he wouldn't hear the words but hoping he would feel the intent. "A story that starts long, long before you were born." She pulled the yellowed photograph from her pocket. Leo took the fragile paper carefully, studying the young man with the wide smile standing in front of the old building. "This one here," Mrs. Grady continued, pointing to the man in the photo, "is your great-grandfather, Jacob Vance. Your grandfather's father, who died before you were born. He was also deaf just like you, couldn't hear a thing in this world. Not thunder, not music, not his mother's voice." She paused, running her fingers over the photograph with reverence. Jacob worked in a steel mill way up in the Rust Belt, one of those old ones, noisy, full of dangerous machines. It was a place where the noise was so deafening that workers with normal hearing wore ear protection. But for Jacob, that hell was silence. Leo watched intently, not understanding the words, but catching every emotion passing over Mrs. Grady's face. "One day," she continued, her voice deepening, "a machine caught his hand, just swallowed it like a monster. Do you know why? Because he didn't hear the alarm. The siren rang warning that the machine was jammed and dangerous, but he didn't hear. No one noticed in time. He lost 3 fingers that day." She paused, taking a deep breath. "That's where my grandmother came into the story. Her name was Rose. She worked in the same mill in the sewing section for the industrial fabrics. She saw the accident, saw the blood, and decided that would never happen to Jacob again." Mrs. Grady raised the silver whistle, letting the light hit the oxidized metal. Rose was smart. She bought this whistle with money she saved for months. It wasn't a toy, honey. It was a survival instrument. She gave the whistle to Jacob and made a deal with him. Whenever there was danger, she would blow the whistle. And he didn't need to hear. He felt it. The vibration traveled through the factory floor, up his boots, right into his chest. It was like the whistle talked directly to his body without needing ears. Leo looked at the whistle in his hands with a new understanding. That object had a history. It had a purpose. "This whistle saved Jacob's life for years," Mrs. Grady said. "Every time a machine jammed, every time there was a steam leak, every time the supervisor yelled for everyone to run, Rose blew the whistle, and Jacob felt it. He survived." She leaned closer to Leo, her eyes locked on his. "And you know what's most incredible, honey? Rose and Jacob fell in love, got married, had a daughter, my mother had me. And 62 years later, destiny put Rose's granddaughter here in this house to take care of Jacob's great-grandson. You carry his blood, the same deafness, and I carry my grandmother's heart, the heart of someone who protects, who doesn't give up, who finds a way." Tears flowed freely now down Mrs. Grady's face. "I didn't come here to teach you to speak, honey. I came to teach you to feel. Because the world can be cruel to those who are different, but vibration doesn't lie. It goes through walls. It reaches where sound cannot." Leo, not understanding the words but understanding everything, hugged Mrs. Grady tightly. And in that hug were generations of protection, of silent love, of people who refused to let deafness be a sentence of isolation. It was exactly at that moment that the door swung open. Edward entered like a hurricane, impatient, ready to drag that woman out once and for all. He expected to find a pathetic scene, the maid hugging his son, probably filling the boy's head with fantasies. But what he saw froze him in place. Leo was standing on the bed, holding the silver whistle with both hands. He was staring fixedly at his father, not with fear, not with submission, but with something new shining in his eyes, determination. And then, while Edward, his wife, and Mrs. Grady watched in silence, Leo brought the whistle to his lips. He blew, trying to imitate what he had seen Mrs. Grady do. The sound that came out was weak, shaky, but it was there. And then, holding the whistle against his chest to feel the vibration he himself had created, Leo looked at his father and tried something impossible. His lips moved, his mouth opened, and with a monumental effort, trying to imitate the vibration he felt, he forced sounds through his throat. Da. The word didn't come out complete, but the intention was crystal clear. Dad. The entire room seemed to stop breathing. Mrs. Vance covered her mouth with her hand, eyes wide. Mrs. Grady closed her eyes, giving thanks silently. And Edward, who always had an answer for everything, who always controlled everything, who always solved everything with money and authority, simply stood there, looking at his son, unable to process what he had just witnessed. For the first time in 5 years, his son had tried to call him, and it wasn't the expensive doctors who made it happen. It wasn't the $15,000 devices. It was a 62-year-old cleaning lady with a rusty whistle and a love story that spanned generations. Edward stood paralyzed in the doorway. That attempted word, da, echoed in his mind like thunder that wouldn't stop reverberating. He opened his mouth to say something, closed it, opened it again. Nothing came out. His eyes began to burn, and he realized with horror that he was about to cry in front of his wife, the maid, and his son. He couldn't allow that. He spun on his heels and left the room, hurrying down the stairs. He locked himself in his study and sat there, in the darkness, hands shaking, breathing irregular. For the first time in years, Edward Vance had no control over anything. Not the situation, not his emotions, not the crushing weight of guilt that was beginning to collapse on him like an imploding building. That night, he didn't sleep. At 3 a.m, he was sitting in front of his computer, red eyes fixed on the screen. He typed, Jacob Vance plus deafness plus steel mill. The results began to appear. Old records, scanned documents, and then he found it. His grandfather's medical file, archived in a defunct hospital in the Rust Belt. It was all there. The congenital deafness, the mill accident, the loss of 3 fingers on the left hand, and in a medical note dated 1978, a line that made him stop breathing. Patient reports surviving in the work environment through an improvised vibratory alert system used by a colleague. Edward continued searching. Found marriage records. Jacob Vance and Rose Marie Sanders. Discovered that Rose was someone's grandmother. Followed the genealogical trail until he reached the name, Grace Marie Sanders, his house cleaner. At 6 a.m, as the sun began to rise, Edward left the study and went to his mother's room. Leo's grandmother, who lived in the mansion's annex but rarely interacted with the family. He knocked on the door. She answered in a robe, surprised by the early visit. "Did you know?" he asked without preamble, holding out a printout of Jacob and Rose's marriage certificate. The elderly woman took the paper with trembling hands, her eyes filled with water. "I knew," she admitted, voice cracking. "Your grandfather told me the story 1,000 times before he died. The whistle rose, how she saved his life over and over. He kept that whistle until his last day. And why did you never tell me? Why did you let me treat that woman like—" "Because you didn't want to listen." Her voice came out louder than expected. "You were always like this, Edward. Pragmatic, cold. To you, family stories were poor people's superstitions. Remember when I suggested looking for alternative therapies for Leo? You called me ignorant, said you only trusted science. So I stayed quiet, just like everyone in this house stayed quiet." Edward recoiled as if he had been punched, because she was right. He had always dismissed anything that didn't come with a diploma hanging on the wall or a 5-figure price tag. The reparation. At 8 a.m, when Mrs. Grady arrived for work, because even fired she didn't know how to do anything but stick to her schedule, she found Edward waiting at the gate. Around him, all the house staff had been summoned. The cook, the driver, the gardener, the housekeeper. Everyone looked confused at the boss who never in 3 years had gathered the team like this. When Mrs. Grady walked through the gate, Edward took a step forward. "Mrs. Grady," he began, and his voice, usually so firm and authoritative, cracked. "Yesterday I fired you. I accused you of breaking a device that my son probably destroyed in a crisis I wasn't present to witness. I tore up the drawings you made with care. I humiliated you in front of everyone." He paused, taking a deep breath. "You tried to tell me a truth, the truth of my own family, a truth that could have helped my son years ago, and I tore up your paper, literally and figuratively." The silence was absolute. No one had ever seen Edward Vance admit a mistake. "I am wrong," he said finally, the words coming out as if each one cost a piece of his soul. And I apologize. In front of everyone. Mrs. Grady stood there, processing. Part of her wanted to accept immediately, go back to work, pretend nothing had happened. But another part, the part that carried 62 years of swallowed humiliations, of apologies accepted without being deserved, of dignity sacrificed on the altar of survival, that part said, "Not this time." "Mr. Vance," she said calmly, "I accept your apology, and I accept coming back to work here, but I have a condition." Edward blinked, surprised. "What is it?" "I don't want a raise. I don't want a better room. I don't want anything material." She lifted her chin, looking directly into his eyes. "I want a chair in Leo's room, and I want you to sit in it for 1 hour a day and try to talk to your son, even if he doesn't hear. Because listening isn't just with the ears, Mr. Vance. Listening is with the heart, too." The proposal was so unexpected, so simple and yet so devastating, that Edward was left speechless. She didn't want money, didn't want revenge. She wanted him to be a father. 1 hour a day, Mrs. Grady repeated. "No phone, no computer, no work excuses. Just you and your son. That is my price." Edward swallowed hard. Nodding was all he could manage to do. 1 year later. The morning was clear when Edward parked the car in front of the new building. The modern glass facade reflected the blue sky, and above the main entrance in large, elegant letters was the name, the Grace Sanders Institute, Center for Development for the Hearing Impaired. He got out of the car and was greeted by Leo, now 6 years old, who ran to him with a huge smile. The boy hadn't recovered his hearing. Doctors had made it clear the damage was irreversible, but he was a completely different child. Leo signed quickly in ASL. "Dad, you're late." Edward smiled and signed back, slowly, still learning but trying. "Sorry, traffic was bad." Inside the institute, deaf children of all ages studied, played, learned. There were ASL classes, lip-reading therapy, music therapy sessions through vibration, exactly as Mrs. Grady had taught Leo. The walls were covered in vibrant colors, and in the center of the main lobby was a bronze sculpture. 2 intertwined hands, one young and one old, holding a silver whistle. Edward had sold the construction firm. Not all at once, not dramatically, but gradually. Transferring responsibilities, divesting, redirecting resources. The money that built skyscrapers now built futures. The concrete empire had transformed into a legacy of hope. Mrs. Grady was in the coordination office reviewing the curriculum for the next semester when Edward walked in with Leo. "Mrs. Grady," he said, and even after a year he still couldn't call her simply Grace, as she had asked. Some habits were hard to break. She looked up and smiled. "Mr. Vance, I brought the enrollment report. We have a waiting list for the next 2 years." "That's wonderful," she said, genuinely happy. "It means we're making a difference." Leo tugged on his father's sleeve and signed something. Edward laughed and signed back before translating aloud. "He wants to know if you're having lunch with us today." "Of course I am, my angel," Mrs. Grady replied, ruffling the boy's hair. While Leo ran to the courtyard where other children were playing, Edward stayed for a moment watching Mrs. Grady. "You know," he said, "I never really thanked you for what you did, for not giving up on him." "On me." Mrs. Grady placed her hand over his, no longer the hand of boss and maid, but of 2 people who had walked through fire together and come out transformed. "We never give up on those we love, Mr. Vance. That was the lesson my grandmother Rose taught me, and that I hope you teach Leo." Edward nodded, feeling the familiar lump in his throat. "I'll try. Every day I'll try." And it was true, because some catharsis don't happen in a dramatic moment. They happen slowly, 1 hour a day, one conversation at a time, one gesture at a time, until one day you wake up and realize you've become a different person. Not perfect, but better. Not without flaws, but trying. Now I ask you, what did you think of Mrs. Grady's attitude in forgiving her boss and still demanding he spend time with his son? Was she too kind, or was it the smartest thing she could have done? Write your opinion in the comments. I want to know what you think. This story teaches us that true wealth isn't in expensive gadgets or diplomas on the wall, but in the ability to see others, to listen with the heart, and to never give up on those we love. Stories like this touch your heart. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to join our family. Every week, we have a new emotional story waiting for you.